Are you looking for the best Garmin watches? In this video we will look at some of the 7 best Garmin watches on the market. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description. So make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Number 1. Garmin Vivomove Trend. Are you just starting out on your Garmin journey? Then you probably want one of the entry-level watches from the Vivomove line, which pack most of the Garmin functionality into a stylish smartwatch. This year's addition to the lineup was the Vivomove Trend August 10th Wired Recommends, which introduced wireless charging for the first time. No more rattling around your desk for your proprietary Garmin charger before you go on vacation. With the notable exception of onboard GPS, you do have to take out your phone and open the app every time you want to GPS track an activity. The Vivomove Trend has most of Garmin's full suite of athletic and health functions. Garmin recently updated the Connect app to be easier to navigate so that you can more easily check your body battery, or the feature that takes into account your sleep, heart rate variability, and activity data to gauge your energy levels throughout the day. It has a barometer, accelerometer, altimeter, and Move IQ to auto-detect activities that are as short as a 3-minute dash to the doctor's office. It can track sleep and measure your SpO2, or the level of oxygen in your blood, and it also has incident detection during activity tracking, which means that if you're working out alone, it can alert your emergency contact if something happens to you. An affordable alternative is $270 is a little too rich for your blood? You can still find the Vivomove Sport $177 in stock in many places, which has the same good looks and most of the same functions. If you're anywhere near as absent-minded as I am, though, you may be making up that price difference in replacing your Garmin charging cables when you travel. Number 2. Garmin Venu 3. The Venu line is very similar to the Vivo Active line in that it's made to track holistic health stats, but it has a slightly nicer build quality with a full-screen AMOLED, a stainless steel bezel, Corning Gorilla Glass for the lens, and a fantastic 2 weeks of battery life. You also get upgraded software features. I particularly like Waking Up to Morning Report, which gives you the day's information, your body battery, the weather, etc., and a new sleep coach with nap detection. Health-wise, it has pulse ox blood oxygen monitoring. You can opt for either spot checking or continuous checks. It also has Garmin's FDA-cleared and clinically validated ECG app, which is one of the few ECG wearable apps that actually works on me. I am fine. No atrial fibrillation here. Workout-wise, it has GPS, GLONASS, and Galileo satellite capabilities, a barometric altimeter, a gyroscope, and an accelerometer for finely tuned workout tracking. You can also now take calls with an onboard speaker and microphone, which is just okay. It sounds low and tinny, and on the other side, my spouse says it sounds like I'm sitting inside a can. However, it works. This is the watch to get if you have an Android phone and want better battery life and a slightly more extensive set of health features than a Pixel Watch 2 July 10th Wired recommends. It still doesn't have built-in body temperature sensing, though. You'll need the optional $40 Tempi sensor for that. Number 3. Garmin Epix Pro Gen 2. Every year, Garmin releases updates to its excellent outdoor sports watch lineups, the Epix Series and the Fenix Series. We have historically loved the Fenix Series, but as their price points converge and the Epix's battery life has improved, I've decided that for your money, you might as well get the Epix's nicer screen. We tested the Epix Pro Gen 2 8 out of 10 Wired recommends, which has a huge AMOLED screen and a titanium bezel, which I still managed to bang up while rock climbing. Even powering this enormous screen, looking up offline maps, finding the nearest coffee shops, paying for my coffee with Garmin Pay, and tracking activities, I still got a whopping 2 weeks of battery life, a huge improvement over last year's barely 3 days. The Fenix has a solar charging edition, which would extend the battery life even more. There's also new software for outdoor sports, including a hill score for showing you how fit you are to tackle hills and an endurance score, which takes into account your running and hiking workouts to see how good you are at covering long distances. Finally, there's also a one-button flashlight, which I liked more than I meant to. The angle and placement is just much more convenient than the usual wrist-wearable flashlight that makes you awkwardly angle your wrist to see anything in a dark tent. Number 4. Garmin Forerunner 165. I could probably write a whole separate article on Garmin Forerunners alone. The line is one of Garmin's oldest and goes all the way from the bare-bones Forerunner 55, $200, to the spendy Forerunner 965, $600. They all have different graduated specs and features. For example, the less expensive ones have cheaper displays and no blood oxygen sensors. However, all have access to multiple satellite systems for accurate positioning, as well as access to Garmin's proprietary training algorithms. Garmin's suggested workouts are flexible. None of the Forerunners are duds, especially if you can find last season's on sale. However, I think the Forerunner 165 8/10 wired recommends is a good compromise for most people. It's on the more affordable end of the spectrum, but it has everything you need, including a bright AMOLED display, an altimeter for more accurate mileage, and a blood oxygen sensor. I found the sleep and workout tracking to be pretty accurate, the battery life is decent, and I really like Garmin's morning report, which wakes you up with a summary of last night's stats, how well you slept, the weather, and how ready you are to take on the day. The music version costs an extra $50 and may be more trouble than it's worth, but other than that it's a pretty solid option for even more advanced runners. Number 5. Garmin Lily 2. One factor that makes trackers like the Withings ScanWatch 2, July 10th, wired recommends, and the Google Pixel Watch 2, July 10th, wired recommends, stand out above the crowd is how beautiful they are. Unfortunately, most of the time, chunky, technical Garmin watches just look like, well, chunky, technical Garmin watches. The Lily 2, on the other hand, is very pretty. This is the first update to the Lily line that we've seen in a few years. It comes in two forms, the Lily 2 and the Lily 2 Classic, the upgraded version which looks more like an analog watch and has Garmin Pay and a nylon or leather band. It's one of the smallest Garmin's and has a pretty short battery life. I got 3 to 4 days of wear out of it. But it also has a pulse ox sensor, a pretty beautiful Corning Gorilla Glass lens, a metal bezel, and standard Garmin features like body battery and fall detection. It's the seamlessly functioning Garmin tester that I referenced in my review of the Amazfit Balance. Number 6. Garmin Instinct 2 Solar. When Garmin first debuted the Instinct, I thought no one would want it. I was wrong. It's now one of Garmin's most popular trackers, because it has excellent backcountry functionality at a much more reasonable price point than the high-end Fenix line. The Instinct has your basic necessary outdoor sensors, the ABC, or an internal altimeter, barometer, and compass with automatic calibration, but it is cheaper, mainly because instead of a gorgeous AMOLED with mapping capabilities, it has a much more basic-looking MIP, memory in pixel, display. This is the watch I would wear if my job did not force me to keep switching my watch. I love its compact size and advanced functionality that belies its chunky, Tron-like looks. The latest Instinct 2, September 10th, wired recommends, is updated with more colors, a smaller 40mm bezel, and an updated high-resolution display. If you're an outdoors person, the main reason to get the Instinct is the battery life. Unlike almost every other high-end Garmin, the solar charging panel increases the battery life by about 50%. When I tested it, I didn't have to charge it for 3 weeks. I was also able to keep myself oriented while snorkeling and not drift off to sea, open water style, so that was nice. Number 7. Garmin Edge 840 Solar. The Edge 840 Solar, August 10th, wired recommends, is one of the most powerful cycling computers around, in a package that's about the size of a deck of cards. It has multi-band GNSS support for accurate wayfinding and 32 GB of internal memory for your cycling routes. It also has Garmin's Power Glass, which extends the battery life up to 60 hours with battery saver on. Our writer Steph Pearson noted that this year, the Edge 840 Solar came with a new series of software training features that, with a power meter and a heart rate monitor, basically make it a coach that you can take with you anywhere. Real-time stamina gauges your output before you bunk. Cycling ability maps your output to the course you're riding. Garmin's navigation features let you map out routes to and from nearby coffee shops, all without interfering with your ride data. Adaptive training will even give you personalized custom workouts for the day. In fact, Pearson says the only downside is that it's so compact it's sometimes a little hard to see all your maps and data.